Let's start off by defining what the Smart Tool is. The Smart Tool is essentially being able to use more than one of these three tools at a time. So the selector tool, the trim tool, the selector tool, and the grabber tool. You can enable the Smart Tool by clicking on this bar over here at the top and surrounding those three tools. So if you click on that bar, it enables all three tools. That is the Smart Tool. You can also enable the Smart Tool by using any combination of the three following keys, F6, F7, F8. So if I hit F6 and F8, it turns the Smart Tool on. If I hit F7 and F8, it turns the Smart Tool on. And if I hit F6 and F7, it turns the Smart Tool on. So the selector tool is enabled when you are above the center line of a specific track. So here we're looking at the kick track, and you can see if we're above the center line's about right there. If we're above the center line on that track, you'll see that we get the selector tool. If we're below the center line, we get the grabber tool. And if we are on a clip and we're near the end, then we get the trim tool. Now if you're zoomed out far enough, you're really not going to even get the trim tool. So if we zoom out far enough like this, you can see that now we're not going to get the trim tool, even though we're clicking in an area that should give us the trim tool. And the reason for that is that the clip must be at least 36 pixels wide for the trim mode to be available. Okay, so that's something to think of when you're zoomed out and you're going, how come I'm not getting the trim tool? So you won't always get the trim tool unless you're zoomed in sufficiently and your clip is at least 36 pixels wide. So to create a fade with the Smart Tool, all you need to do is come up to the upper left-hand corner for a fade in. And these tracks are all grouped together. That's why there's fades occurring on all of the tracks. Or if you're working on a fade out, you come to the upper right-hand corner of the clip and grab and click and drag. And that will give you a fade out. So you can do a fade in or a fade out on a specific clip by going to either the upper left-hand or upper right-hand portion of that particular clip. If you're wanting to do a crossfade, you can also do that by zooming in on the clip. You want to crossfade and then grabbing at the bottom between those two clips. So I want to crossfade this one to that one. So the way I do that is by coming down here to the bottom, and you can see you get the crossfade icon. Click on that and then pull either to the right or to the left, and it will crossfade those two clips. You can change the type of fades that Pro Tools will create with the Smart Tool by coming up here to Setup and to your Preferences, and we'll go to Editing, and you can see here that you can change your default fade settings. So we could go in here if we wanted a different type of fade, maybe equal power fade for our fade in, and then equal power fade for our fade out, or maybe let's leave it this way. Equal gain fade for there, and then if we wanted a certain type of crossfade, maybe a S-curve, something like that for our crossfades. Then we could click OK, and when we come to our session here and we create one of these fade in and fade outs, you can see that they will correspond with the type of fade that we set up in our preferences. The same is true with the crossfade. If I come down here and create a crossfade, you can see that that particular fade shows up here with all these various crossfades on these group tracks. So your preferences, your fade in and outs, and your crossfades do affect the type of fades that your Smart Tool will create. And those can be changed under the Setup drop-down menu, Preferences, Editing, and then over here to the Fades section.